The U.S. Labor Department says inflation has hit a 31-year high. President Biden was in Baltimore yesterday, where he promoted the newly passed infrastructure bill. He acknowledged the soaring inflation rate and made his pitch about how the more than $1 trillion deal could help fix some of the country's economic issues.
Very soon, we're going to see the supply chain start catching up with demand. So not only will we see more record-breaking job growth, we'll see lower prices, faster deliveries as well. This work is going to be critical as we implement the infrastructure bill and as we continue to build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out by passing the Build Back Better plan. We need to unlock the full mighty dynamic.
So the president maintains that inflation is under control, or rather getting inflation under control remains a top priority. So for more on this, let's talk to Nancy Cordes. She's at the White House. Nancy, the president talked yesterday about how his infrastructure bill is going to help with inflation. But the only problem is we're talking about some really big projects, bridges and trains and all that sort of stuff. Those aren't exactly projects that you flip a switch and everything gets going.
Right. His bill could help with inflation in 2023 or 2024, but it's not going to do much for inflation right now because these projects do take time. And so, yes, in the long run, you are going to have better roads, new bridges, new tunnels, better ports, and those will all help with the supply chain of the future. But when it comes to right now, there are not that many tools at the government's disposal. That's something that's very frustrating for this White House. They want to be able to show that they are tackling the problem, that they're aware of the problem, and they can do some things around the margins. We've seen them bring in various key players like the ports and the shipping companies and big retailers and try to iron out some of the kinks. They can play an important role facilitating all of that. But when it comes to directly tackling inflation itself, they really don't have that many levers that they can use to bring it down right away. They argue it is going to come down on its own, possibly by the middle of next year. But that's something that a lot of people aren't going to believe until they start heading to the gas pump and seeing those prices tick down again.
Yeah, and Nancy, as you are aware, prices have climbed 6.2% in October compared to last year. And a lot of people are wondering if the rising inflation numbers will complicate the president's political agenda. But one of the things that I think is interesting, and I know you've spoken to Moody's chief economist about this, is people need to understand why inflation is happening, right? You've had almost 2 years of folks not really spending any money. So household income has actually risen across all classes in America. But now you have this pent-up demand that is happening for products and goods and services and foods that the market is not prepared to deal with. So I'm curious what you're hearing from the White House about the message that the president intends to bring to the American people, because it strikes me that having someone, either the president or others in the administration, on the road explaining why this is happening, part of it is, in fact, because the economy is actually doing really well.
Right. And that's a case that they have to make because, as we know, presidents' approval ratings, their reelection chances often hinge on how well the economy is doing. So this is not a problem that they can afford to ignore. They're going to try to find any way to turn this to their advantage. So one of the arguments that the president is making is, look, if Congress passes the Build Back Better plan, that's $2 trillion worth of inflation relief. Why, you say? Well, because the Treasury Secretary and other White House officials have argued to me, what's the most expensive thing in people's daily lives? Well, it's childcare. Often people's childcare expenses are higher than their rent or their mortgage. And the Build Back Better plan contains a lot of money to help bring down childcare expenses. There's universal pre-K. That's 2 years of preschool that people may not end up needing to pay for anymore. Granted, it would take a year or two to really see the results of that funding, but it's in there. So they are making the case that relief is on the way with the Build Back Better bill. The problem is that one of the people who they need to get on board, Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia, you've heard this name before, he's out there arguing, hey, wait a minute. Inflation appears to be high and not going down anytime soon. Do we really want to inject $2 trillion worth of stimulus into the economy right now? So he seems to be arguing that perhaps Congress should tap on the brakes, and that is not music to the ears of the White House when, after all, officials were hoping that they could have a final vote on this bill as soon as next week.
Yep, no one's liking that song that Joe Manchin's singing right now. Well, not no one, but at least some people, some Democrats. Vlad mentioned that you talked to Moody's chief economist, Mark Zandi, and you spoke to him about some of the big ticket items that maybe we should put on hold and not think about buying right now. Here's what he had to say.
Are there certain big ticket items that you would say, don't buy that right now? Wait 6 months or a year, you'll get a better price.
Cars, vehicles. I mean, to be real though, even if you wanted to buy one, you might not be able to find one. There's only, believe it or not, there's only 75,000 cars on dealer lots today. In a typical time, it's closer to 500,000.
Yeah, you know, he brings up a good point that it's not just the prices; it's just you just can't get it. You know, this is actually last year Thanksgiving. Our fridge broke right before Thanksgiving. Can you imagine that? So we went to go order a new fridge, and it was going to take about 6 or 7 months. And we eventually just ordered the part and kind of MacGyvered it, and it's still working. So, but
oh, that's great.
I understand the pain of people who just want to upgrade that big ticket item, and you know it's not going to happen. The real question is, how long will this last? Did he give you any insight?
He did. So it was really interesting. You know, he seems to agree with the White House that this is temporary, the inflation piece at least, and that by the middle of 2022, we should start to see things looking more like they do normally, inflation in the range of 2 to 3%. Now, there's a big if. It depends on the pandemic. If the U.S. continues to keep the pandemic at bay, which means that there are people who are working, manufacturing goods, that kind of thing. You don't have those kinds of shortages, then inflation can start to look more like normal. But when it comes to ironing out these kinks in the supply chain, when it comes to, you know, getting the inventory of cars back up from 75,000 in the U.S. to 500,000, that, he says, is what's going to take even more time because it's a chain reaction. The reason you don't have cars is because you don't have the computer chips that are used in cars. All of those different goods have to start getting produced at greater levels. And he thinks that it could take actually a year or two before anybody who wants a fridge can get one in a timely fashion.
All right, Nancy Cordes for us at the White House.
Hangs on.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly right. Nancy, good to see you as always. Thank you.
You got it.